Hi everybody, welcome to this week's broadcast of Larry the Money Guy. Today we are diving into the big beautiful bill and the big changes that are coming. For both federal employees and regular workers with a 401k, there are some big changes coming. What am I talking about? Well, starting in 2026, for employees who are over the age of 50, so you're eligible for catch-up contributions, and if you make over $145,000, all of your TSP and 401k catch-up contributions are now going to be forced into your Roth account. That means that you're going to be paying taxes now on money that in years past you've probably been getting a deduction for. So some big changes to your taxable income. For some of you, that could mean thousands in extra taxes that you weren't expecting on paying. So the way that it works, if you're over 50, you can contribute $23,500 per year to your TSP or 401k account, plus an additional $7,500 as a catch-up contribution. If you're earning over that $145,000, this is the big change. That catch-up contribution now gets forced into the Roth. Could be good, could be bad. I'm a big fan of tax-free money in general and tax-free growth. But if in years past you've been getting a deduction for that catch-up contribution and now it's going to be taxable to you, that's going to bump up your income and your income taxes. So for federal employees, there's another big change that came. Congress just passed the final version of the big beautiful bill and it almost gutted federal retiree benefits. So the worst proposals got defeated, but there's still some big changes that I want to share with you guys today. So I hope that you will stick in. At the end of today's session, we're going to share some details about our Federal Retirement Masterclass. So if you are interested in signing up for that, let us know. Drop me a comment in the chat or whichever platform that you're watching this in, and we will help you get registered for it. Don't forget to like our page, subscribe, bookmark our page, so that way you can be sure that you're not going to miss anything as these changes come about. So let's dig in. Today I want to cover the major benefits that were proposed in Congress that we covered last year that we covered last week on our broadcast. And we want to talk about what happened and what didn't happen. So the other provisions, we want to talk about the other provisions in the bill that are going to impact retirement planning, and then what you should be doing right now to stay ahead. So let's dig in. The proposed cuts that didn't happen. Last broadcast, right, we were talking about the proposal to move from the high 3 to the high 5 calculation. They wanted to calculate. This was going to change how your FERS pension was being calculated, from taking your highest 36 consecutive months to taking your highest 60 consecutive months, high 5 years, in your salary computation, which for most people was going to reduce their payout because they've earned more in their latter years. This didn't happen, which is great. Higher FERS contributions. There was also a proposal that they were going to deduct 4.4%. They were going to increase your FERS pension contribution to 4.4%, cutting your take-home pay and your checks by a pretty significant amount. And the other one was that they were looking to eliminate the FERS supplement. So remember, federal employees get to retire as early as their minimum retirement age. So 56 or 57 for most of you, if you're a special provision employee, even earlier. But when they move from the CSRS system to the FERS system, they switched, and now federal employees under FERS contribute and are eligible for Social Security. What the change was going to do, the first supplement came in because you can't file for Social Security until you're 62, but federal employees, you get to retire as early as 56 or 57. So the first supplement was this bridge payment that they would pay out, and Congress, the House version of the bill that came out, was eliminating this first supplement, which was probably going to mean that a lot of federal employees with their 30 years or full eligibility, 30 years, 20 years, whichever threshold that you were at, are probably not going to be able to retire before 62 and Social Security is eligible to them. So the good news is that none of these proposals made it into the Senate's final version and the version that actually passed. So pension is safe for now. So everybody can kind of go to the water coolers, federal employees talk about what might have happened. Everybody, I know it was all kind of the talk around the office, but things are safe. There's still some changes that are coming though. So maybe just a thought out there. If you're looking to retire with your 30 years and maybe at age 57 with 30 years of service, think about your plan for a minute. What happens if Congress would have gotten rid of that first supplement that would have paid you from 57 until 62? Would you have stopped working, or what would you have done, or what would you need to do over the next couple of years differently? Kind of an interesting question to ask, but something to think about. So what changes are happening? So here's what did make it into the bill. So mandatory Roth catch-up contributions. I already talked about this at the beginning, but this is a big one. So your catch-up contributions, so that $7,500 that you make as a catch-up contribution, is now going to go in on the Roth side of things. You're going to pay taxes on that $7,500 of income now, this year, 2025. This starts now. And in exchange, the Roth money grows tax-free. So the good is that when you actually decide to retire, this is tax-free money that's growing. The bad is that you're not getting a deduction for the $7,500 that you were putting into your TSP or 401k this year while you're still working and while your income is over $145,000. So why did they do this? Well, I mean, likely because it's a way to get higher earners to realize more taxable income this year, in the current year. So that's one big thing. The other big change that's coming for TSP federal employees, in-plan Roth conversions. This is a really cool opportunity. So for the first time, TSP is going to allow you to convert traditional balances in your TSP to Roth inside of the plan. You have not been able to do this, but this opens up a whole slew of new planning opportunities. And also maybe it has some tax traps if you go crazy and you don't really, you don't pay close attention to what you're doing. So awesome opportunity. Make sure that you talk to somebody and let's make sure that you do it the right way. The other bad news, I'll save the bad news for federal employees. 2026 looks like there was no federal pay raise baked into the bill. So sorry about that. It is what it is. All right. Other big changes in the bill. Besides the federal employee specific stuff, the big beautiful bill is including a whole lot of broader tax and financial changes that are going to affect retirement planning for pretty much everybody and their taxes. And politics aside, right, largely what the big beautiful bill did is it extended the current tax brackets and the current tax rates that we already have from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of years ago. So, first thing, higher standard deduction. So the standard deduction for this year, for 2025, got a bump after the bill passed. So for single filers, your standard deduction went from $15,000 to $15,750, and for joint filers, it went from $30,000 to $31,500 for those of you filing joint. Big change. The senior bonus deduction is what they're calling it. So if you're a taxpayer, age 65 or older, you are eligible for $6,000 per person in a bonus deduction on top of the standard deduction. So if you're married, that's $12,000 on top of the $31,500 standard deduction, which is cool. So the big caveat to note is that this bonus deduction phases out for single filers when you're modified adjusted gross. Single filers over $75,000, joint filers over $150,000. So if in retirement, if you're over the age of 65 and your income is over $150,000 as a married couple, just make sure that you plan this $12,000 bonus deduction may not be there for you. I think that this came out, right? One of Trump's goals on the election path, or when he got elected, was that he wanted no taxes on Social Security benefits. And while we didn't just straight out come out and say that we're not going to tax Social Security benefits, what this $12,000 or $6,000 bonus deduction did is it didn't directly eliminate the taxes on Social Security, but we did get the bonus deduction that makes roughly 88% of Social Security recipients are now going to get their Social Security tax-free. So we got close. So this is a pretty good thing for seniors, for retirees, for people looking at taking Social Security. That senior deduction is pretty cool. Already talked about the extension of the current tax rates. So you'll see a lot of talk on both sides of the aisle that the bill has got some changes and it's going to, it only benefits the wealthy, or it doesn't help the lower income brackets much. Largely what it did, right, at the end of this year, at the end of 2025, the brackets were set to go back to the 10, 15, 25, 28, 35% brackets, and it extended them. So now you're in the marginal brackets of 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and so on. They extended those brackets through 2030 instead of reverting to the pre-2017 rates. So that's good. The other big thing, I'm sitting here in Illinois, they increased the SALT, the state and local tax deduction cap. So the SALT deduction is going from $10,000 to $40,000 for joint filers and up to $20,000 for single filers. This is great because it means that more people, especially in a high tax state like Illinois, instead of just being able to deduct up to $10,000 of property taxes, now we can deduct up to $40,000 in taxes if you're married. So that's a big thing. It means that more people in high tax states are going to itemize their taxes. And there is a phase out. So make sure that you know the phase out starts above $500,000 of income. So it's a pretty high income limit, pretty high bar to cross, but just know that. So let's take an example, right? If a married couple in their 60s has $140,000 in modified adjusted gross income, now they get to claim a standard deduction of $31,500 plus $12,000 for the senior bonus deduction. I should say they're over 65. So they get a total deduction of $43,500 as their standard. That's a big jump. Now, if they live in a high tax state and they now get to itemize their taxes, they can still deduct that $12,000 senior bonus deduction on top of their itemized deductions. So now they can write off up to $45,000 or $40,000 in state and local taxes, plus $12,000 in the senior bonus deduction on top of any other itemized things like mortgage interest, healthcare expenses over a certain percentage, all that other charitable giving, all that other good stuff. That is some really cool stuff. Let me know which of these you think is going to have the biggest impact on you. Stick it down in the chat. Would love to see kind of what your thoughts are. What do you think this is going to do for your taxes? Happy to take a look and would love to hear from you. All right, what pre-retirees and retirees should be doing right now? Number one, you need to go in, take a look at your TSP and your 401k contributions. If you are set to make the maximum contribution, number one, for federal employees and for a lot of non-federal employees, make sure that you take the new contribution limits and you divide it out by your 26 pay periods. And make sure that your paycheck, you're not withholding or you're not contributing more than what that amount is. Because if you max out your contributions by October, that the employee or the employer, the government match from October, November, and December, you're not getting the government match because you're no longer contributing, because you've already maxed out your contributions. So number one, make sure that you spread out your contributions per paycheck, divide it out evenly so that you are contributing every single paycheck of the year. Number two, take a look on those catch-up contributions and take a look at your overall tax rate and say, hey, do I still want to be making the catch-up contribution, knowing that if you make over $145,000, it's going to go Roth? Or should you reduce your contributions and look at some alternatives? So that's some good changes. Number two, revisit your retirement timeline. If some of these changes came through, and I know federal employees, we always joke. Normally we help, or we have about 10 or 12 clients a year retire, like actually retire and stop working. This year we had like 46 people with all the deferred resignation offers. We had like 46 people in a month and a half that we helped retire. So revisit your retirement timeline. If these congressional changes would have gone through, how would that have affected retirement? If you were to leave today, if the government comes in and slashes workforce, are you prepared? Take a look. You need to have a plan. Have a plan, make sure that it's optimized for taxes, make sure that you're making the right decisions, make sure that you're on top of these changes. I always say it's always best, like, don't just stick your head in the sand and say, oh, well, I guess I'll just wait until February when my accountant or when I go to plug this stuff into TurboTax and I'll see how this impacts me. Get on top of it. So that's the big things. So there's a lot of changes. A lot of it is overwhelming. I would say that there's a lot of complexity tied to retirement planning, especially for federal employees. Tax optimization, pension benefits, survivor options. Do you keep your FEGLI? What sort of healthcare option are you doing? Are you coordinating it with Medicare? Sticking on the original FEHB? What are you doing? And unfortunately, the new big beautiful bill that passed added another layer of difficulty to that. So what we're doing, we're going to be hosting another federal retirement masterclass. It's a free training. We are going to walk you step by step through how they calculate your benefits and what you need to be considering to maximize your options. We're going to talk about Social Security. We're going to talk about when you should file. We're going to talk about you and your spouse and whether you should take spousal benefits or you've got survivor options, what all that means. We're going to talk about tax saving strategies. So what should you be putting in traditional versus Roth, or should you be doing in-plan conversions over the next couple of years while you're still working? What does retirement look like? All of that sort of stuff needs to get put together into a cohesive plan. We're going to show you how to do it in our retirement masterclass. So if you're serious and want to be proactive in your retirement, it's not one that you're going to want to miss. So stick in the comments below. We will get in touch with you. We'll send you a link to register. We don't quite have it live yet, but we will get there. With that, I want to thank you all for attending today's live stream. It's certainly good to see so many people on here and the engagement that we have. Look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.